Next segment where alleged footage, insider leaks, and public reactions collide in ways that will shock the unprepared. Because if part 1 is about exposure and suspicion, part 2 is about breakdown, chaos, and public reaction. And once you start connecting all these dots, once you start seeing the network of actions, reactions, and alleged intentions, you realize that this story isn't just dramatic, it's explosive, far-reaching, and potentially devastating for anyone involved. And now, as the dust settles from the first wave of revelations, the story deepens, and the alleged complexity of the situation becomes impossible to ignore. Sources claiming insider knowledge say that Lori's presence at Charlie's events was not casual, not social, not about family appearances. It was calculated, deliberate, and precise, almost surgical in its execution. She allegedly chose moments that allowed her to remain unseen by the cameras but visible enough to register interactions, gestures, alliances, and subtle power shifts around Charlie. Every laugh, every handshake, every glance that Charlie gave or received reportedly became data points in a network of observation that, according to the same sources, was intended to feed Erika and perhaps even Cabot with critical insight. And while the public saw Erika as the grieving widow, quietly managing her family, orchestrating memorials, and stepping delicately into the spotlight, insiders are claiming there was far more happening behind the curtain. Allegedly, Cabot Phillips was not just a bystander. He was maneuvering strategically, attending overlapping events, making introductions that seemed innocuous but, according to reports, subtly undermined or redirected conversations around Charlie's professional sphere. Friends and acquaintances who had previously considered these too innocuous now describe the energy around them as charged, awkward, off, and in some cases unsettling, suggesting that even subtle nonverbal cues were being interpreted as intentional signaling. And then there's the leaked footage, fragments that have circulated online in hushed corners, screenshots and clips that are blurry but telling, showing Lori positioned at the edge of stages, leaning slightly to observe while everyone else applauded. Cabot engaging in seemingly casual discussions, his laughter a fraction too long, a pause too deliberate, gestures that draw attention without overtly interfering, all of which has conspiracy-minded observers claiming there is a deeper network at play, an invisible web of influence that extended further than anyone realized. And while these claims are difficult to verify, the pattern, according to the online communities dissecting every frame, is consistent enough to spark debates about intent, influence, and the very nature of loyalty among those closest to Charlie. The speculation doesn't stop at observation. Alleged sources claim that Lori actively reported on interactions, whispering details to Erika, feeding back information that may have allowed her to plan her sudden, almost immediate control over public platforms after Charlie's death. And that timing, the almost instantaneous consolidation of influence, the professional decisions that seemed pre-planned rather than reactive, is being interpreted by some as evidence that Lori and Cabot were more than bystanders. They were participants in an ongoing orchestration, and social media has caught fire because of this. People are analyzing old photos, revisiting interviews, cross-referencing appearances, and noticing details that were invisible in real time. Where Lori was standing, who Cabot spoke with, the sequence of interactions at dinners, meetings, conferences, every small detail suddenly matters. The narrative is shifting in ways that make longtime supporters question their assumptions. The grief, the public appearances, the speeches, the gestures that were once comforting are now being read as calculated steps in a carefully managed play. And then you layer in the rumors about intelligence connections. The whispers that Erika may have ties to agencies nobody would have expected. And suddenly Lori's positioning, Cabot's behavior, and Erika's posthumous consolidation of influence are seen under a different light, a lens of suspicion, manipulation, and strategic orchestration that has been quietly hidden for months, maybe years. And as the online forums dissect every movement, every expression, every interaction, the story takes on almost cinematic proportions. People are comparing it to a slow-burn thriller, a plot twist that unfolds one frame at a time, and the stakes feel incredibly high. Allegedly, some former insiders have come forward, anonymously, describing moments where Lori's attention seemed hyper-focused, almost obsessive, and Cabot's engagement seemed to pivot in ways that influenced conversations and professional decisions around Charlie's immediate circle. And this is where the public's imagination runs wild. Because when you combine leaked footage with alleged insider accounts, patterns begin to emerge, and the picture painted is one of a coordinated, if subtle, effort to monitor, influence, and potentially control the narrative around a man who was previously considered untouchable in his sphere. And the reactions have been instantaneous. Social media users, journalists, and armchair investigators alike are weighing in, interpreting every small gesture as a clue, every glance as a signal. Public opinion is split. Some are defending Lori and Cabot, claiming familial tension and personal disagreements are being blown out of proportion, while others are convinced that a deliberate campaign of observation, influence, and manipulation was at play. And then there's Erika, whose behavior after Charlie's death is being examined with renewed scrutiny. Her fast acquisition of public platforms, her carefully curated appearances, the precise way she presented herself, the decisions made within days of tragedy, once innocent gestures, now appear to some as the execution of a plan informed by insider reporting and subtle influence, allegedly coming from her mother and Cabot. And while this is all speculative, the sheer volume of discussion, the layering of footage, witness accounts, and timeline correlations makes the story explosive, compelling, and impossible to ignore. There are also alleged financial implications, with insiders claiming that decisions made during this period could have had far-reaching consequences for partnerships, sponsorships, and political affiliations tied to Charlie's work. Every handshake, every interaction observed by Lori or manipulated by Cabot is framed as potentially influencing financial and social outcomes, adding weight to what might otherwise be dismissed as mere family tension. And the intensity of the public's response cannot be overstated. Commenters are dissecting Instagram posts, scrutinizing interviews, comparing body language, and theorizing motives at every opportunity. Every detail becomes a thread to pull, and every new leak, every new fragment of footage, sends shockwaves through forums and comment sections alike. People are asking questions like, was this really observation or something more sinister? Were decisions made to advantage Erika posthumously? Did Cabot have a hand in shaping public perception in subtle ways? And as these questions swirl, the story continues to escalate. The narrative, once private, is now public. And the alleged coordination between Lori and Cabot is being framed as both audacious and disturbing. It's a dramatic recontextualization of relationships that previously seemed straightforward and benign, revealing a web of subtle manipulation, strategic positioning, and possible influence that nobody anticipated. And insiders continue to fuel the fire, offering speculative quotes, claiming things like, "You don't notice it at first, but she's always there, always watching, and he's always saying one thing, but doing another. If you know the pattern, it's obvious." The leaked footage, though incomplete, becomes proof in the court of public opinion, with viewers interpreting every frame as intentional, calculated, and meaningful. And the result is a perfect storm of speculation, outrage, and intrigue that keeps audiences glued to screens, refreshing feeds, and dissecting the smallest details in search of answers. And it's not just about personal grudges or family drama anymore, according to analysts and online commentators. The implications extend into influence, reputation, and legacy, raising questions about how much of Charlie's public life was genuine, and how much may have been subtly steered by those closest to him, allegedly for reasons that range from personal resentment to strategic gain. And this is where it gets really complicated. Alleged insider accounts claim that Lori and Cabot weren't just reacting, they were predicting, anticipating, and positioning themselves in ways that maximized observation and control. Every public interaction, every meeting, every event could have been analyzed, noted, and reported. And when combined with Erika's rapid posthumous consolidation of power, the narrative begins to suggest coordination that some find shocking, Others simply can't accept, and many more are struggling to understand. And the conversations online keep multiplying, feeding into theories that are equal parts scandal, intrigue, and psychological thriller. Forums, social media threads, YouTube comment sections, and private chats are dissecting every gesture, every expression, every moment captured in the new footage. The public reaction is fierce, polarized, and relentless, creating a feedback loop where speculation drives engagement and engagement drives more speculation, pushing the story further into viral territory with every hour that passes. And as this alleged scandal unfolds, the real question becomes, what does it mean for Charlie's reputation, for Erika's public image, and for the alleged orchestrators themselves? If Lori and Cabot did indeed maintain such a calculated presence, the fallout could reshape perceptions of loyalty, family dynamics, and influence in ways that nobody anticipated, and the timing of the leaks. The precision of the footage and the layering of insider testimony make it almost impossible to ignore, forcing the public to reckon with a narrative far more complex, more calculated, and more explosive than anyone could have predicted. And that leads us to the inevitable anticipation. If the observation and influence are as deliberate as the footage suggests, what comes next? Public scrutiny, legal probes, potential resignations, or professional fallout all loom on the horizon, creating a tension that makes it impossible to look away. And the cumulative effect of all of this is that the story, now fully in the public eye, has transformed from a private feud into a national-level conversation where every gesture, every glance, every whispered conversation is dissected, debated, and debated again, creating a dramatic tension that is as irresistible as it is unnerving. And now, as the alleged web of observation, influence, and subtle manipulation unfolds, the consequences begin to ripple outward in ways that nobody predicted. Public scrutiny is no longer optional, it's relentless, intense, and unforgiving. Social media has erupted into a frenzy, threads dissecting every movement of Lori, Cabot, and Erika, every interaction in the leaked footage analyzed as if it were evidence in a high-stakes courtroom. People are questioning alliances, motives, and loyalty, wondering who really had Charlie Kirk's best interests at heart. Was it his family, his colleagues? Or were there invisible strings being pulled behind the scenes that shaped his public persona in ways the world never saw? And the alleged leaks have created a perfect storm, because they hint at more than just personal grudges. They suggest influence, power, and strategic orchestration that could have far-reaching implications. Anonymous sources claiming military or insider knowledge have fueled speculation that these observations were not just casual, but targeted with calculated intent to monitor, guide, and even control the narrative surrounding Charlie's professional and personal life. And the public is responding in kind. Comment sections are flooded with disbelief, outrage, and horror. How could Lori do this? Why would Cabot intervene? Was Erika complicit? The speculation is endless, and the lack of concrete proof only intensifies the debate. Analysts, self-styled experts, and journalists are weighing in, drawing connections, highlighting patterns, and proposing theories that range from the plausible to the absurd. Financial implications have also been suggested by these insiders, with claims that the orchestration could have influenced sponsorships, political opportunities, and partnerships connected to Charlie's platforms. Every handshake, every conversation allegedly observed, every subtle intervention could have shaped outcomes that many believed were organic, authentic, and independent. And then there's the question of timing. The speed with which Erika assumed control over public platforms, memorial events, and professional appearances after Charlie's passing has now been scrutinized as possibly facilitated by Lori's observations and Cabot's influence. Critics argue that no one reacts that quickly without preparation, insight, or guidance, and if the leaks and anonymous reports are accurate, then the rapid takeover is no longer a product of circumstance, it becomes a calculated move, a precise orchestration enabled by observation and insider knowledge. Public reactions have become polarizing. Some defend Lori and Cabot, citing family tension, natural human jealousy, and the complexities of blended personal and professional networks. Others see it as a deliberate orchestration, a covert power play that reflects manipulation, strategy, and control at the expense of trust, loyalty, and transparency. And as the discussions heat up, legal speculation enters the mix. Could there be ramifications for surveillance, manipulation, or interference in professional affairs? Could whistleblowers, regulators, or even internal investigations come into play? While nothing has been confirmed, the mere possibility adds tension, urgency, and gravity to the narrative, pushing the story beyond entertainment into the realm of potential consequence. And let's not forget the emotional component. Fans, followers, and colleagues of Charlie are grappling with the idea that the narrative of his life, legacy, and death might have been quietly shaped by those closest to him. The sense of betrayal, the shock, and the lingering questions create a landscape of doubt and skepticism, with many wondering if what they witnessed publicly was ever authentic, or if it was carefully managed, observed, and influenced from behind the scenes. And the online communities have taken this to heart, digging through old footage, interviews, and public appearances, comparing expressions, gestures, and seating arrangements, building complex maps of interaction that point to subtle manipulation and strategic positioning. Some claim to have spotted repeated patterns, little cues, tiny movements that, when connected, suggest coordination, monitoring, and influence that goes beyond normal family or professional involvement. The leaked footage, incomplete and fragmented as it may be, becomes proof in the court of public perception, allowing viewers to construct narratives that feel compelling, convincing, and damning. And as this narrative takes shape, the alleged fallout begins to expand beyond the individuals themselves. Public trust, professional relationships, and the perception of integrity surrounding Charlie's platforms are now all under examination. Sponsors, partners, and political allies could be influenced by the perception of manipulation and internal conflict, creating potential financial and reputational repercussions that reach far beyond private family matters. And the questions keep multiplying. Could there be resignations, legal probes, or corporate shakeups? Could insiders come forward with more information, more leaks, more details that further complicate the story? The tension is palpable, and the anticipation is relentless, because the more information surfaces, the more the public demands clarity, transparency, and answers. And the speculation doesn't stop there. People are theorizing about motive, intent, and consequence, asking if Lori's alleged observation and Cabot's subtle interventions were motivated by jealousy, control, familial loyalty, strategic foresight, or some combination of all of the above. Was this a calculated effort to safeguard certain narratives, manipulate perception, or influence outcomes for personal gain? And as each new theory emerges, the story grows more complex, more dramatic, more irresistible to the audience hungry for answers. And now, with the media picking up on the leaked footage, the story has the potential to escalate into mainstream discourse. News outlets, independent journalists, and influencers are all circling, dissecting details, interviewing sources, and amplifying the speculation. The combination of public intrigue, alleged insider insight, and dramatic footage makes this an irresistible narrative, one that commands attention, debate, and ongoing engagement. And while facts remain limited, the perceived weight of evidence in the eyes of the public continues to grow, driven by analysis, interpretation, and the human tendency to connect dots, especially when those dots form a picture that feels scandalous, explosive, and consequential. And then there's Erika, whose rapid consolidation of influence and control is now being reinterpreted in light of these allegations. Was she merely reacting to circumstances, or was she leveraging the insights allegedly provided by Lori and Cabot to secure platforms, appearances, and influence that would have otherwise been unattainable? The timing, the precision, and the consistency of her moves suggest, according to observers, a strategic acumen that aligns perfectly with the alleged network of observation and influence surrounding her. And the narrative tension is compounded by the fact that insiders continue to whisper, hinting at information yet to be revealed, leaks yet to surface, and evidence yet to be examined. The story, once a simple observation of family tension, has transformed into a complex web of speculation, intrigue, and potential consequence that captures the imagination, fuels outrage, and keeps audiences hooked, and the implications extend beyond personal dynamics into the realms of reputation, influence, and the shaping of public perception. Every gesture, every conversation, every observed interaction now carries weight, meaning, and potential consequence, creating a landscape where nothing is as it seems and every assumption is questioned. And as the drama unfolds, viewers are left with more questions than answers, more theories than facts, and a sense of anticipation that continues to build, setting the stage for ongoing revelations, speculation, and public discourse that is both intense and relentless. And in the end, the fallout could be monumental. Relationships may fracture, public trust may erode, professional networks may shift, and the perception of Charlie Kirk's legacy could be forever altered by what Laurie allegedly observed, what Cabot allegedly influenced, and what Erika allegedly orchestrated in the wake of it all. The public is watching, dissecting, theorizing, and waiting. And as more information inevitably surfaces, the story promises to grow, evolve, and shock audiences in ways that only the most dramatic, carefully orchestrated narratives